The man tore off his underwear, then removed the rubber band on it, made a slingshot, and without saying a word, he started shooting at the woman thousands of miles away. However, no matter how hard he shot, the woman didn't react at all. It turns out that Xiao Shuai recently got a girlfriend. He wanted to rent an apartment to live with his girlfriend. Enjoy the world of two people, but I don't have much savings. I unexpectedly met an agent, who patted his chest and said, there is a good place in the city center, 24-hour electricity supply, there is a refrigerator, a TV and everything, it just depends on luck, but if you rent it now, you can waive 1 month's deposit. Xiao Shuai thinks it's a good deal. Without saying a word, I paid the money that night. And moved in. Little did people know that this place is actually an unfinished building. When Xiao Shuai moved in, the old man who was guarding the door was sleeping and didn't see him at all. The next day, Xiao Shuai went out to pick up his girlfriend, and halfway through he realized that he had forgotten his phone. He opened the door and went back to get it, but a gust of wind blew through the door. The door closed with a clang. Xiao Shuai tried to turn the handle to open it, but the handle was broken. He quickly looked for pliers to open the lock, but after fiddling with it for a long time, it was of no use. He kicked and banged on the door, gasping for breath. Xiao Shuai was at a loss, so he called the locksmith company. Just as he was about to give the address, his phone ran out of battery, so he ran to charge it, thinking of turning on the air conditioner to cool down. Let it cool down quickly, but the circuit breaker tripped and the distribution box was still outside the door. Xiao Shuai was really panicked now. He ran to the crack of the door and shouted at the top of his lungs, then ran to the balcony and screamed at the top of his lungs. But this was on the 35th floor, so no one would hear him. At night, Xiao Shuai took out a small red light, hoping that someone would see it, but the light was too weak, like a firefly in the dark night, it has no effect at all. At this time, he looked around and saw that the only food left was a bag of biscuits and a bottle of water. He never thought that these things would be his only food. The next day, Xiao Shuai took a small sleeping bag and beat the guardrail, and shouted desperately to the guards until his voice was hoarse, but no one paid any attention to him. He ran again. Went to mess with the door, hit it with objects and kicked it with feet, but the door was so solid that it could not be broken open. On the third day of being trapped in the unfinished building, Xiao Shuai was at a loss. He gritted his teeth and threw the TV down from the 35th floor, but the security guard who was listening to the radio did not react at all. On the 5th day, only half a bag of biscuits was left. The mineral water is running out. Xiao Shuai arranged his clothes into a big distress signal, hoping someone would see it, but no one paid any attention. He used toothpaste to write a letter for help on a cardboard, but the cardboard was too light and the wind blew it up to the roof. Xiao Shuai was so anxious that he was running around. When he saw the scabbed scars on his body, he tore open the scars and wrote a letter for help with his blood. This time the cardboard fell on the balcony of the resident opposite. Xiao Shuai screamed desperately. But the woman sitting opposite him on the 35th floor didn't notice at all. Xiao Shuai still didn't give up. He tore open his underwear and used the rubber band on it to make a slingshot. Every day he used a slingshot to shoot stones at the woman on the roof opposite, hoping to attract her attention. On the 10th day, the woman finally found the letter for help. She followed the message to the unfinished building. I told the security guard that there was someone trapped inside, but he had lived there for 2 years and didn't believe it at all. He said it was impossible for there to be anyone inside. The woman felt uneasy, so she went into the building on her own. The building was eerie and full of dust and construction debris. The woman became more and more frightened as she walked. She was too scared to go any further. Just turned around and left. Xiao Shuai saw the woman leave. He was so desperate that he kept banging on the door. His last hope was shattered. He felt like he was dying. The deflated ball sat on the ground. At night, Xiao Shuai moved the mattress to the balcony and set it on fire after a disagreement, thinking that someone would surely see such a big fire. But after the fire had been burning for a while, he realized something was wrong. If the fire continued to burn, he would be burned to death before help arrived. He was in a panic. Put out the fire, got himself trapped in the dark. On the 11th day, Xiao Shuai was so hungry that he felt dizzy and his mind was not clear. He shook the empty water bottle desperately. In desperation, he had to hold his breath, pinch his nose and drink the highly concentrated yellow liquid. As soon as the liquid entered his stomach, Xiao Shuai couldn't bear it. He vomited for the whole morning and became even weaker. On this day, it suddenly started to rain. Xiao Shuai saw the rain as if he had found a life-saving straw, and he lay on the guardrail. He desperately used his hands to catch water to drink, and then he found a ladle to catch more water. In order to store more water, he made the toilet box into a funnel and used the refrigerator as a container to catch a whole box of rainwater. Xiao Shuai looked at the box of rainwater. Shuai thought that she would not have to worry about drinking for the time being. Even though she was full, she still had to find a way to escape. He climbed out of the balcony, stepped on the railing, looked down, and was terrified. This is the 35th floor. If you miss a step, you will be smashed to pieces. But he has been trapped in this unfinished building for half a month. These days I either eat ants or drink urine, and occasionally I can catch a bird to fill my stomach. Xiao Shuai discovered that there were no security nets on the balconies below the 30th floor. If I could climb up there, maybe I could get out. He began to use fan blades to cut his own guardrails. Every time was very strenuous. When he was hungry, he caught a few ants and stuffed them into his mouth. When he was thirsty, he drank some rainwater. A few days passed like this, and the guardrail was only cut by less than half a millimeter, and the stored rainwater also deteriorated. Exuding an unpleasant smell, Shaurya was desperate. He was determined. I decided to kick him against the guardrail over and over again, using all my strength in each kick. With a snap, the guardrail finally broke. Shaurya carefully climbed out of the balcony and climbed towards the 30th floor. But when he reached the 30th floor, he found that there was no anti-theft net. There was only a narrow crack in the wall, so Shaurya pulled off his belt and used it as a safety rope, sliding down 1.1 degrees. When his feet touched the railing, he held tightly to his head. The beams were so tight that Shaurya dared not even breathe, fearing that he would fall down accidentally. He moved step by step, and finally stepped on the narrow crack in the wall and reached the balcony on the 30th floor. He reached for the door, and found it was locked, and began to kick it again. At this moment, he almost slipped and fell, which frightened him so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he finally kicked the door open. Shaurya walked into the corridor, dragged his weak body down step by step, and finally reached the first floor. When I went out, the security guard saw him. They looked at each other. Shaurya was angry, but he knew it was useless to say anything at this time, and he fainted after taking a few steps. When Shaurya woke up, he was already in the hospital. Shaurya saw that his girlfriend was feeling aggrieved. Tears welled up in his eyes. Saw his girlfriend wearing a wedding bracelet. He knew in his heart that his girlfriend had run away with someone else. Shaurya said nothing, because saying it wouldn't change anything. The reason why he was trapped on the 35th floor was because his girlfriend wanted an apartment, so he rented one, but before he could tell his girlfriend, he was trapped for nearly half a month. Now they've broken up. Shaurya found a new job and started a new life. That day, Shaurya returned to the unfinished building. He was trapped there at the beginning. His house had been renovated, but the broken guardrail outside the balcony was still there. The story that happened here may never be known by anyone, but this experience is deeply engraved in his heart. It became a pain that he would never forget in his life. Please like and subscribe for more videos and get entertained.